someone with the scissors. I badly hurt a girl, then they just said, oh, he has to go.
Yeah, Jack was having big difficulties in school, disrupting lessons. I mean, he'd be throwing things.
Got your shoes on yet, Jack?
Hitting other children, crawling under tables, screaming rages. I'd get phone calls from school, nearly every day, for me to come and collect Jack. I was just so confused, why is this happening at school and it's not happening at home? And it was just really frustrating.
I've had loads of chances. I shouldn't have had loads of chances, but then they just said, oh, he has to go.
Jack was excluded for 18 months. Now he's back in school. This is the story of how he achieved it. The NHS Marlborough Education Centre in London works with families of excluded children and those at risk of exclusion. Last year, Jack and Lorraine came here 4 mornings a week with children from different London schools and their parents. The centre works with groups of families together to tackle severe behaviour problems, a technique that can also be used within schools. Neil Dawson is one of the founders of this approach. The morning starts with schoolwork.
They do have a basic faith and experience that children can change. When we get children referred to as like Jack, that's the standard sort of report that we would expect to see, where schools and teachers have done all that they can to try and help. Parents have often got to the end of their tether and trying to sort things out, so everybody's very frustrated. Often parents and teachers are at loggerheads with each other. Parents may be thinking it's the school's fault for not sorting things out well enough, or teachers thinking it's the parents who are not doing their job well enough. So we get in the middle of there and trying to look at it in a different way, trying to look for resources really in the family, rather than seeing the problem in the family, seeing the family are the one people who are going to bring about the solutions. Okay,
Parents and children discuss together each pupil's behaviour before returning to school in the afternoon.
You need a show on George so your mum can see.
The discussion is led by Neil and Brenda McHugh, who developed this approach.
So let's move on to Jack.
All the children have individual behaviour targets. Jack is telling the group his behaviour scores from the day before.
Today I think I've achieved 4, no comments.
Hey, well done. Well done, Jack. So how's Jack doing at the moment as far as you're concerned?
He's doing all right, actually. He seems to have really settled down. It's only been
Initially, going to the Marlborough was awful. I was very nervous. I felt very intimidated because they like you to pass comment and, try and help other people's children. I found it very difficult to suggest things about other people's children. I wasn't comfortable with people telling me what I should be doing with Jack. I found it very, very difficult to do that.
What changes have you done with Jack? How do you think Jack's changed?
A lot calmer.
No, what change have I made, or what changes?
Both of you.
What change have you made?
To start with, she would be keen to defend his position, but that changed quite quickly, so that Lorraine very rapidly became somebody who was very interested in trying to help him to change his behaviour and acknowledge some of the things she hadn't been doing.
He is a lot calmer, he doesn't get angry as much.
You realise that talking with other parents and other parents' point of view and the way they respond to different behaviours does help you, and does help you the way you speak to your own child. So it definitely helps having everyone sharing their experiences and sharing their problems together.
The targets should be slightly different to the normal ones, the consequences.
At the end of each day, parents are expected to give consequences for behaviour at school.
I've got a lot tougher with him, and I do now stick to the consequences. I wouldn't say I did always. And I keep you in, which is the one you hate the most, isn't it?
We get rid of that argument that quite often happens between home and school, where home says, well, I'm not punishing him, that's something that happened in school, that's not my job. I don't ask school to punish when he doesn't make his bed in the morning, so why should I punish if he's not good with his teacher? It puts an end to that, because these are jointly constructed targets which are there to help the child change his pattern or her pattern. And so the deal is that when the child comes home, if they've scored well, they get some kind of appreciation from the family. If the pattern has re-emerged during the day, there needs to be some consequence to that, and it has to happen that night.
In the beginning, that you would say, right, well, you've got a couple of twos this week, you have got to have a consequence, you're grounded, you cannot go out to play. But then you'd get home and Jack would be just constantly, please, begging, absolutely begging, and in the end you just give in. You're like, well, go on then, go out, okay, just for a bit of peace and quiet you can go out. But then that doesn't work, because then they know you're going to keep on giving in, so you really have to get tough, you have to give consequences and mean them.
What happens in the mutual support in the group is that parents give each other strength. They will do things outside the group, say, if he's being difficult, call me, or I'll come round. So mini communities of support are set up, quite often with families who've not had that much support within their own family, so they can be effective and carry out what they say.
You say it in the group here that you're going to do this. You've got to carry it through. You can't not do it, because you've got to come in the next day and say, oh, I've never done that. So you've got to carry it through. Once I've said it, he knows now that I mean it, because I've got to come in here the next day.
Not only do parents support and advise each other, but the children too.
Mustafa's got an answer.
You say you always make trouble. When you should listen to advice what your mum's saying. When she says listen.
After a few months attending the Marlborough, both Lorraine and Jack had begun to change.
For Jack, his tantrum started to reduce, so they became less frequent, less intense. He started to be able to talk about his own behaviour, which is a big move for a boy who may have been more in the acting out style. And he was able to think about what he wanted to do differently. So he was talking, and his mother was talking to him about what she expected. But at the same time, she was firming up.
So I had to change a lot before Jack did. I had to become a parent again, not just trying to be Jack's friend and trying to get on his level with him wasn't working. I had to take control and show Jack that I was in control, because he was ruling.
Marlborough staff are now encouraging both primary and secondary schools to use the centre's multi-family group approach within schools. At All Souls Primary School in London, Brenda McHugh has set up a group which she runs alongside school staff. The in-school approach is less intensive. It's once a week and deals with behavioural issues at an earlier stage. But it has some valuable advantages.
I've heard parents say, I used to be a teacher's worst nightmare. And what I did was I decided I had to stop being against the teachers, and I actually had to get to support them. Being able to get those parents who felt very alienated, not just from their child's class or that school at the moment, but maybe from education since they were in school. So to be able to get those parents on board, to become part of the heart of the school, where they are actually now talking to other parents, taking away the idea that to talk to teachers or to come into school and talk about your worries as a parent is a scary thing to do, that actually school is a helpful place for parents, and there is a true partnership where you look at the difficulties, you look at what's happening with your child, and you make changes.
I love these ideas.
Brenda runs the family group with the school's learning mentor. As at the Marlborough Centre, teachers draw up behaviour targets for each child and award scores daily.
Jessie, would you like to tell us how your targets have been this week?
Jessie continues to try hard and is listening well on the carpet. She's not always putting her hand up before she speaks, but she usually does what she's asked to the first time. Well, Jessie was having quite a few problems last year. I wasn't really aware at first how bad it was. I got a letter home saying that she'd been sent to the headmaster's office twice in 2 days and things were really bad. I saw it as almost not a punishment, but as we're doing something wrong. We need to be in an extra help environment. But after a couple of sessions, I felt that it was less serious and more relaxed. Being able to know what's going on is so nice, to actually have it on paper. This is how Jessie's been today. because it can be, you know, you cannot go up to a teacher every day and say, tell me about my child, and demand a parents' evening every week. You can't do that, they're too busy.
If you consider that you're leaving your child 6.5 hours every day in the care of someone, it's good that you have a dialogue and know what's going on. Also in dealing with the child, in the child's basic development, I would think, you know, that the teacher should understand if there's something specific going on with a child, by being aware they can deal with it a lot better. I think it's useful in the sense that you get to listen to other people's opinions. For instance, if I had a problem with Nathaniel, and one of the parents would say, okay, well, how would you deal with that? They might give me another angle to look at it in which to deal with it that I wouldn't have thought of before. So, yeah, the sharing of information is really useful, yes.
We can do it like that. From last year to this year, she's very, very different, and I know that lots of things have changed in her life. But she seems to love school now. She loves learning. She's still herself, but she's definitely benefited from being here.
One of the good things about a project like this is it can continue to roll. So you have an initial group, which can be difficult to get started, but once you have that established and you have parents who see the benefits of coming to the group, who see how their children are doing better at school, are behaving better at home, they can then feed that information on to the new generation of parents who are coming in as the group develops.
After over a year at the Marlborough Centre, Jack is at last back in school, but it's taken months to find one willing to take him.
It's always a challenge, really, to how to persuade teacher colleagues that change is possible, and sometimes quicker than people expect.
Finally, Jack was given a place at Churchill Gardens Primary School.
I had a frank discussion with Jack when he started, and his mum and dad were there, and we had a discussion, and I said to him at the time that, you know, we didn't want him in school because of what we knew about him, but also I then went on to explain to him that we'd heard different things from the Marlborough, and this was his chance to see how things went, and he could use, you know, my office as a escape if he needed to get out or scream. I understood that it was hard, but he has been absolutely brilliant, and I am really pleased with how he's a lot better behaved than a lot of children at school. So he has done really well.
I really like going back to school. I do lovely work. I have a great teacher, which I met Anson said. He's one of the nicest, and I got one of the nicest classes in the whole school.
Going to the Marlborough and learning to give consequences for certain behaviours has helped enormously. Absolutely enormously. That's been the main thing, is giving consequences for bad behaviour. So that then Jack knows, you know, if he's had a difficult time, certain things will happen and he won't be able to do certain things.
Yes. I think it's really important that the parents are involved and there's actually a discussion openly about, because quite a lot of the time it's the school and at home are a separate entity, and the behaviour of a child at home is different than what the behaviour is at school. So to actually sit and have the opportunity to talk about what's good and bad and what happens in school and outside of school, and gives the parents chances to talk to other parents, it makes them feel also they're not by themselves, they're not alone.